Our original idea was to squirrel the film away for a report to be done in 6 months or so. It was to be a then, in a then and now look at Xenia and the Xenians. But we found the mood of the place in the short-term aftermath of the tornado such a compelling combination of hope, exasperation, and courage, we felt we ought to share the story with you this week.
I had been at work. I came home, drove up on the other side of the high school, and looked at where the house used to be, and I just started to bawl.
We got a home for sale. Would you want to buy it? I paid for it, too. Completely. No mortgage, no nothing.
Seems a little bit unreal still, you know, as you look around and see all these houses out here. Kind of I don't know, humbling experience that as powerful as we are and all of the controls we have over our destiny, that Mother Nature can interpose herself in 20 seconds and turn the world upside down.
I don't mind working, but when you don't see nothing in the future for your work, it's bad. But like I told my wife, I say I always worked for things I wanted, but now I don't know which way to turn.
Just scared. I'm thankful, though, that I'm still alive, because some of my friends, they got hurt and some of them got killed.
Considering the devastating force of the tornado, it was a miracle that in a town of 25,000, which was half destroyed, only 34 were killed. But for Mr. and Mrs. David Graham, who had huddled together with their family in the basement of their rented home as the tornado approached, it was a monstrous tragedy. The tornado's 300-mile-per-hour winds ripped their home apart, and when it was over, 3 of their 4 children lay dead. David Wayne, age 8, Billy Lee, 5, and Sherry Sue, 4. The next day, the Graham family begins to search for a place to live. They seek help from HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which has so far found temporary homes for 624 Xenian families. David Graham goes with his brother-in-law, whose home was also destroyed.
It'd just be the same with him.
Since you have no insurance, HUD will pay for, first 3 months for sure, and then go back and assess the damage at your original home, and if you still can't live in it, they'll renew your contract every month.
We know.
Okay. Up to a year. Okay?
The Graham's surviving child, 7-year-old Bobby, had been injured and is recuperating at a hospital in nearby Dayton. His parents come bearing the good news that they have found an apartment.
Hey, we got another place to live.
Yeah.
Got us another apartment. Hey, Delbert got a place right down from us.
Yeah, Delbert and Delia live right down the street from us. And Missy. And Delbert Daly said he'd take you and get your hamburger just as soon as you got home.
I'll be up with time Easter.
That's right, Easter Sunday. I didn't think you'd remember.
By comparison, Joseph Lewis and most Xenians were lucky. Their losses were confined to major property damage. It has left them stunned, but not defeated.
I know that I had a pretty nice house there that exists no longer, but, we're so it could have been a lot worse. And the fact that my family's okay kind of negates that I can repair those bricks and clean this land off and all of that. And I think we're going to be reasonably okay. I know we can't get out without some kind of loss.
Insurance companies have set up mobile offices all around Xenia to settle claims, but some tornado victims are finding they were underinsured. Mr. Lewis may be an exception.
Your house is definitely a total. You've got the 41,000 coverage, which I can pay you any time that you want to accept it.
Some people have had different kinds of experiences.
Mr. Lewis refers to the complaints of some Xenians who say they have been pressured into making quick, low settlements by unscrupulous insurance adjusters. State consumer affairs officials are moving to protect citizens against possible frauds by shady contractors, used car and credit furniture salesmen. The story of the tornado has been duly reported in the Daily Gazette. a Xenia institution for 100 years. Like most businesses in town, it's been hard hit. 50% of its advertisers are wiped out, and these boys can't deliver their newspapers along routes that have disappeared into rubble. Editor Jack Jordan.
We're concerned about the emotional letdown. We're beginning to surface with some petty hostilities here and there, but if enough of us can hang on, and I think we can, we'll get this thing turned around and provide some opportunities that could turn such a devastating thing as this back into something we might look back on as having maybe an awful lot of good.
Everybody's awful helpful. Everybody but the Red Cross.
When you've been on your own as long as
And
we
they
have, you
aren't
hate to move in on someone.
bothering with.
What kind of experience did you have with them?
You have to go through all kinds of signing papers. You can't have one nickel. You can't have a nickel and expect Red Cross to help you.
Different places to
Not a
sign,
nickel.
here, there, and everywhere.
So we just turned around and walked away from
Hell
it.
with
We'll make it on our own somehow.
And the Red Cross did do a fantastic job in providing shelter and food in this. Like any issue, the Red Cross has been subject to criticism here, but then all of us have been. We've all learned, and we've all been short-tempered, and we've made a lot of mistakes.
But is there anything we can do to...
But Xenia's city government has performed remarkably well. City manager Robert Stewart is coping with problems so monumental and complex as to confound even the most sophisticated big city mayor. A steady stream of high-powered federal, state, and military officials come to confer with him in his disaster command headquarters, but Stewart is apparently not awed by their rank.
The cooperation from the Corps and the Corps' people has just been tremendous in this thing. The problem has been that we don't want to make any mistakes. We've tried to express to the state Adjutant General's office that once this demolition starts taking place, we'll need adequate people to blockade areas and this kind of thing. They're saying, well, don't even ask us until you've exhausted all these other remedies.
In an attempt to simplify the disaster relief effort, the federal government has set up this center with all its agencies represented at one location. But for at least one couple, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Clove, still disturbed by the trauma of losing their home, dealing with even a sympathetic bureaucracy is an exasperating experience.
We have been to HUD. There's nothing that we can find out simply because we have a little bit of insurance. Our property cannot be totally replaced with the amount of insurance that we have. There's no living allowance because we could rake up enough money to get our down payment onto this rental property. It's just a complete runaround circle.
U.S. Congressman Clarence Brown has set up a trailer in the center of town, manned this day by his administrative aide.
Okay. I'm not old enough for Social Security, too damned old for birth control pills. I'm of the wrong color. And there's no house nor no place for me to live. Now, what are you... And all I get's pieces of paper to run someplace else.
Where are you living now?
I'm living in Miamisburg under our own will. We got out and hunted a place. We have no car. We had to go where he could work. We're without a job. I am. Because it was right down the street there. The house was down over there, and that's all gone. This is a lot of baloney.
Okay, you let me talk a little?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay. The HUD is doing the best they can, and you're aware that there's several thousand families in your same situation, and I'm sympathetic with your problem.
Yes.
And they're handling them as fast as they can, and as long as you sign that original form of your loss, your demands, and your needs, I feel sure by sometime midweek, whether it's a trailer you need, what it needs, you're going to be taken care of.
No, they tell us that they are sorry, but they don't think we will be eligible.
The congressman's office discovered that Mrs. Clove had a valid grievance. HUD apologized and agreed the Cloves were eligible for up to a year's rent allowance. They blamed the mix-up on inadequately trained local personnel.
Okay, get on your board, set, and go to it.
In the middle of crisis, time out for the children's Easter egg hunt. Testimony, perhaps, to the resilience of Xenia's citizens.
Well, we're going to rebuild. We got a contractor ready to go as soon as we get the city to tell us what we're going to do. So that's all we're waiting on now, trying to clean up a little bit.
I think the spirit here is tremendous. You see all this debris, and yet there's still a flicker of hope here. It's tremendous. I like Xenia anyway.
There were 40 churches in Xenia. 6 have been totally destroyed, many others damaged. In some places, Lutherans worship with Presbyterians, Episcopalians with Methodists. Here at the Faith Community Methodist Church, the turnout is large, although 172 families in the congregation have lost their homes.
And I think this year, more than at any other time in the history of our city, we really have an opportunity of discovering what the Easter message is all about. We have the opportunity of not only hearing about the resurrection, but we have the opportunity of actually participating in and experiencing the resurrection ourselves as a community. The men on the Emmaus Road had a long walk home, and we do too. They had seen everything about Jesus, but they almost missed the meaning of the resurrected Christ. But then their eyes were opened and they recognized him.
We still intend to revisit the Grahams and the Lewises and the other good people of Xenia in another 6 months.